Jacksonville, St. Louis, Missouri, Orlando, Florida, Detroit, Michigan, Denver, Colorado, New York, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Buffalo, New York, Nashville, Tennessee, Baltimore, Maryland, Denver, Colorado, Houston, Texas, Indianapolis, Indiana, and Kansas, Missouri, home of the Super Bowl, NFL champion Kansas City Chiefs. Welcome to Lunch with the Missouri Kingdom Conference for April the 22nd, 2023. My name is Aaron for your host, and Chris Rowe with Elder Loud. How you doing, Rep?
Fine.
And how's the family doing, sir?
Fine.
And Brother Scott, how you doing, sir?
I am too blessed to be distressed.
Right now, I got to check on the wife. She's right now within a couple weeks in graduation. Am I right?
2 weeks from now, yep.
Getting close.
Yes, sirree.
That's my Brother Scott there. That's celebrating his house real soon, and also gonna hope that later on today will be Scott DeBoe III. But right now, we're broadcasting live on USAHotTalkRadio.com from beautiful Ferguson, Missouri. But I would say that we are part of Ferguson, Missouri, which is Los Angeles City and Orlando, Missouri. Also, we want to thank you for making the Lunch of the Missouri team. Missouri team conversation for the weekend. And on the business area, they've been thank you so much. Made the point what you do every weekend. Almost 108 years now. So anyway, without any further ado, we have prayer with Elder Lounge, who's the pastor of the Walnut Park Bible Chapter Church, located at 5547th Avenue. That's St. Louis, Missouri, 63120. And the word you may voice you hear be that of the Elder Lounge, the pastor of the Walnut Park Bible Chapter Church, at 5547th Avenue. You have a prayer for us. You locate that 63120. 554. You give me that again, St. Louis. Please forgive my voice. It's got that sinus time of year. But next voice you'll be that be loud and clear will be that allows the pastor on up for Dr. Arbitration located 5547 Middle Avenue, that's North St. Louis, 6312. Brother Loud, how you doing, sir?
Fine.
And what you got
here?
Thank you, sir.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for waking us up this morning. You didn't have to, but you did. And Heavenly Father, we thank you for a wonderful gospel, how that Christ died for our sin, was buried and rose again. By continuing believing to the saving of the soul, continues to make heaven your home before you sleep and after you sleep. Heavenly Father, I ask you bless the sick all over in the universe. You know what to do. And Heavenly Father, as we have a wonderful fellowship with you, in Jesus' most precious name, amen.
Elder Loud, we want to thank you for that beautiful prayer, because right now, all over the universe, we have nothing but turmoil. The Bible says that, so we should not be surprised if peace will be. So, Red, what you got for us this week, sir?
I got something, but it's a revolution, Aaron.
Okay.
You know, people don't know what the revolution is. And I'm going to give them a meaning of what the revolution is a mixed culture of all nationalities in one, working for the better and the goodness of Jesus Christ our Lord.
We need that. We definitely need that, Rev. That's a good revolution there.
That's what a revolution is.
Everybody right on time.
Be workers together, all over the universe. We need to get on the right track and stay. Remember how Christ died for our sin, was buried and rose again. And by continuing believing to the saving of the soul, continue to make heaven your home before you sleep and after you sleep. It's I'm gonna go here in the scripture that I wanna read in Ephesians.
Okay.
You know, everybody get upset and they do this and do that. But here's one thing. When you do get upset, this is what you're supposed to do, according to scripture.
Okay.
Ephesians the 4th chapter and verse 26. It says, be ye angry, and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath.
Wow, read that again, Rick. Read that again, please. 3 times, read that, please.
Be ye angry, and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath. See, God, you can get angry. Jesus got angry. But you ain't supposed to sin because you get angry.
Yeah, Moses got angry too. He know that, so that's all. Nothing new.
You're supposed to be obedient to God. This ain't your world. This is God's world. And the people in it belongs to God too. And all God requires is to believe his gospel, the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. We pass from death unto life before we sleep and after we sleep. Continue to show love one toward another, in another, to another, and for another. That's what we're supposed to do. We say is show love. Love is action. When you love somebody, you're going to act on it. And that's what the world needs to do, is act on that they love Christ and they show more love to others so people get saved before it's ever too late.
You know, Red, that's one of the things that that people, what you just said there, you know, about showing love for one another, is a problem that it seems as though people have a problem relating to each other sometimes. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to figure out how to work to get along with somebody as to work how to not get along with them. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You know, and really, you know, getting along with a person is not that hard, because I always tell people, treat the person the way you want to be treated. You know what I mean? You know, and that's the best way to do it. You know, and like I said, we talked the other day, you came out of the house and said, remember I said, if I'm bleeding, give me a Band-Aid. You know, don't put no salt on me. Okay. If I'm crying, give me a tissue. You know what I'm saying? If I fall down, pick me up. Okay. Okay. But that's how you know life is. You know, when you love somebody, you know, and you want to help somebody.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to read something.
Go ahead.
This is where the beginning came from. This is the beginning.
Okay.
The beginning is Africa.
Yes.
It is chiefly the illiterate, the uneducated, and racially biased who refute the fact that the earliest and first human, Homo species, was discovered in the area of what is known today as Africa. And that the place at that time was called Eden. They go all the way back to Adam and Eve. From this point, humankind migrated throughout the world. Facts have been gathered from the land of Kenya, East Africa, in the place of Lake Rudolph, where Richard Leakey, the son of the late archaeologist and anthropologist Louis B. Leakey, was co-leader of the expedition that found the bones of the earliest man. Any history book of academy, repute, sanctioned the African connection to ancient, secular, and religious civilization. Because of abundant facts and scientific findings, it is clear that most of the Old Testament developed from Africa Eden roots. The opening of the scenario of the Holy Scriptures talks of Egypt and Ethiopia. See the following maps. At one time, Egypt and Ethiopia was considered one and the same, and very often in Bible, they are synonymous. The term Egypt was once used to mean all of Africa, which was called the land of Ham in the book of Psalms 105. According to the ancient historian Flavius Joseph, Sellus, Plutarch, Tacitus, Eusebius, and Diodorus, the original Hebrews were a group of Ethiopians and Egyptians who were forced to leave Egypt and migrate to Canaan. Even today, we accept a scholarship from Shepard Diapo, Gerald Massey, who affirmed that the historical Semites include original Hebrew revived out of the African world and were originally black-skinned people. Manetho's Egyptian historian corroborates this impression. It is without doubt that if the Jewish clan of 70 persons were not black upon entering Egypt to see Joseph, it is certain that they were black when they departed under the leadership of Moses. Also, it is important to note if there were any literate persons among them other than Moses himself, their spoken and written language and literature would have been Egyptian when they left. As a matter of speaking, the Hebrew language did not exist at that time. That's just information I just like to read to give the people. And that's why I said, that's why I started off with get angry, but sin not.
Well, Rev, you know what? It's funny you were talking about that today. Just this week, okay, there's been a new movie coming out, and they have the Queen Cleopatra. It's the news about Cleopatra. They have a black woman named Cleopatra, and there's an uproar because so many people had watched the movie Cleopatra. You know, Elizabeth Taylor playing, who was a white woman playing, Cleopatra. But like you just said, all of the history back in those days was all in Africa. I mean, and today that's still a land of color over there. You know what I mean? No matter where you go at. And I know one of the things you just mentioned about Kenya. Well, right now, I'm happy to say that the National Commerce was in Kenya the first part of this month, okay? We're working right now with Kenya, you know, to get some things done now, you know, to have some trade, between our country and their country. So that's right now, we're reaching back now to go back to bring their resources to our country and take our resources over to their country, and we can work together and don't work together, to help each other grow economically.
Amen.
Yeah, so right now, okay, when you talk about that, I mean, so you really just get a lesson today. It's right on the money, because more so than ever before, we'll find ourselves. I can't say a fight amongst ourselves, but it's just people don't seem to want to get along though.
Right. And you know something else? We are multicultural. Culturalism. Everybody needs Jesus. All over the universe. Everybody. Black, white, green, orange, yellow, purple, brown, blue. Everybody needs Jesus. Everybody ought to love Jesus. That song said, everybody ought to love Jesus. Jesus. Jesus, he died on the cross to save us from sin. Everybody ought to love Jesus.
Well, they ought to. One of the things that I was watching a program the other night, and they were talking about letting immigrants come into our country, and they was talking about that people coming to New York, but the Statue of Liberty had a page out there saying, bring me we was open to any. But this country right now is like you say, is a combination, okay, of all nationalities from all around the world. And anybody can come here and have a free opportunity, okay, to work together and get things done. And when it seems as though, just like you're reading there today, okay, about biblical history, what took place back in those days, and people write down, then we talk their history nowadays to understand, so we'll make the same mistakes, but also use those as building blocks. Well, right now, there's a fight right now in our country that people don't want our history of our country to be told, not just backwards, but American history. Any type of history to be told. You know what I mean? And that's bad for our country, man.
Amen.
And if you don't know your history, understand who your friends are, that's when you do genealogy. Okay, they go back and
you say something else, Aaron. Aaron, they cannot stop it. You cannot stop God.
No.
I don't care what they want to do. All this chaos going on out here cannot stop God's plan of salvation. His plan of salvation will oversee anything out there.
Yes, sir.
We live in the righteousness of the Holy God. And He's wonderful. He's a counselor. He's omnipotent, omnipresent, and omnipotent. He's a great God.
Come on.
I'm the son of the king. My father is the king.
Come on.
Y'all, all of us are sons and daughters of king.
Yes, sir.
Who do you think is the head of the king? Nobody but God. Jesus Christ.
Come on.
He's the king. King of everybody.
Yes.
Y'all better get on board with him too. Believe the gospel. Get saved before it's ever too late. Believe the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. You pass from death unto life before you sleep and after you sleep.
Yes. But while we're here on our earth, we need to enjoy us and do the right thing as much as we can about enjoying life and appreciating each other. And that's not really allowed what the Bible said. As the Bible said, I tell the Bible loves me, but I know that's what it was. And the Bible tells me so. But that's not really allowed our folks in there to you. That's what the Bible said. So, Reverend Lyle, we want to thank you for that very enlightening message today and very, very timely message, okay? But one more time, we'll read that scripture, about that from Ephesians, the 4th chapter, I think the 28th verse. Read that one more time.
Amen.
You read that one more time.
All right.
4:28.
It said, "Be ye angry, and sin not.
Mm-hmm.
Let not the sun go down upon your wrath."
Amen and amen.
Amen.
So, Reverend Lyle, we want to thank you for that beautiful timely message, okay? And again, that's Ephesians 4:28. It wants to leave that 26.
They are Ephesians 4:26.
Ephesians 4:26. Ephesians 4:26. Ephesians 4:26. That's the matter right now. Okay. Reverend Lamb, we want to thank you so much for that message, okay? That's Ephesians 4:26. And that's in the New Testament. But again, we want to thank you, first of all, for joining the luncheon with the Chamber of Commerce on a beautiful Saturday. Thank you for joining us, and Scott, and life switching it out here, Scott. St. Louis and around the world, all our listeners. And matter of fact, we can be seen on and heard on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter Live today. And also our shows, this show will be rebroadcast on Sunday and Wednesday at 3 p.m. And also you can get us again if you have to join us today. This has been one of those busy weeks. You know, there's so much that's been going on. But right now, one of the top stories and so much that's been going on that you can hear about today was the Supreme Court, United States Supreme Court, well, there's a federal judge down in Texas decided to put a halt to a drug that had been used by over 5 years, over the last 20-some years. It was approved by the FDA back in 2000. In 2000, and there have been no serious repercussions. But anyway, that judge decided that he wanted to put an end to that. And after doing some research, the United States government, President Biden and the Justice Department, gave it a stay, and they had another, that put into law. And so it was blocked on this past Wednesday. They moved again that tomorrow, which was yesterday, and they would move again. And so right now, the United States Supreme Court, the law would remain the same. And that's a good thing because that would have changed a whole lot of things. When one federal judge can just overrule the FDA and all the drugs and all things, pharmaceuticals that have been approved by those experts, they said that they don't agree with it. But then right now, yesterday, I should say, the United States Supreme Court Justices Samuel Alito and Justice Thomas were the only two that voted to allow the restrictions to stay in effect. But the rest of the Supreme Court moved in favor of that the laws remain in place. And so now, what this means is that the case will go back down to the 5th District Supreme Court, which is the U.S. Court of Appeals, which is the 5th Circuit in New Orleans, Louisiana, and right now, between now and then, on May the 17th, 2023, we will have another ruling. Now, other than that, and this is about birth. Okay, this is about people living life and not life, and abortion and stuff. And so this is another one of the things. That's the Roe versus Wade, and another attack on women's rights. And also one of the things. Okay, when people do their history and research, and they had this research on this judge and found out, okay, that he wasn't even qualified to do something that he did. This kind of reminds you what happened last year, with the judge down there in Mar-a-Lago, who was unqualified, who made some decisions that were eventually overthrown, and they took it to the woodshed. So I think this is another one of the rulings here, okay, that we make us the woodshed again. And also this week, it's been a bad week, okay, so I guess for young people again. Recent shootings in the United States highlights risk being posed by proliferation of guns that involve young innocent people. Those started in Kansas City, Missouri. A young man actually shot the last week, but the case became hot. It became in the news on this last weekend after the gentleman who shot this young man ran from the hall. This is a young man, 16 years old, about 5'8", something like that. But anyway, the man who shot him was 84 years old, white man. He woke up, went to the door. This really tall black man in the door, over 6 feet tall, and he's feared for his life. So he shot him right up in the head and then in the arm. Now, after doing some research here, right now, there was a warrant applied for. And then they looked back and found out, they tried not to call this a hate crime, but it is a hate crime. Because he said because of the man's color, that's why he feared for his life. And so it turned out the gentleman, Mr. Lester, has been accused by his former wife of being very abusive. His son even came out and said that his grandfather, he feels sorry for him because right now he's been kind of brainwashed, about racism. That's why watching Fox News day in and day out, and that's why he's kind of felt that way. So that's how he woke up in fear. So say and another shooting took place in upstate New York. Caitlyn Jenner was allegedly shot and killed by a gentleman by the name Kerry Moorhan, 65-year-old homeowner, when a car. This is just when a car, the state of driven up into the wrong driveway, turned around and was leaving out okay. And the man came out and shot them, okay, and her boyfriend, and then they got lost. The GPS doesn't work. We're out in the road area sometimes. You can't get a signal. And so they accidentally went into the wrong driveway, and guess what? They were shot and killed. And then early Tuesday morning, 2 members of the LD tribute group, they had been to practice, and this is in Austin, Texas. And they were shot by a man named Pedro Rodriguez, 20 years old. After one of the teams, he goes to this parking lot nowadays. You got vans and cars that look similar to each other. And so they put on the wrong door at them. And then they walked away, and the man got out and came over and shot him. I mean, honest mistakes again, with people just doing something. I mean, I mentioned it's around. He was picking up his twin brother. He went to the wrong house by accident, on the wrong street, and just knocked on the door and got shot. Well, these young ladies, okay, they made an honest mistake, and they didn't get shot. And in the driveway, they made an honest mistake, and they ended up getting shot. And then, like I said, and then the worst of all to me, okay, was in North Carolina. This makes no sense. A little, kids were playing in the yard, and the basketball rolled into the man's yard. He came out and shot. Not only the kid, he got no fragment in her face, but the father's in the hospital, and also somebody hit her mother. And this man, he was ringing, and they caught him down in Florida. He returned to North Carolina, but these are shooters here for no reason whatsoever, rare. Any of us have made mistakes. Some of these, I go down long driveways. I make a U-turn. People from my driveway all the time make a U-turn. You know what I'm saying? I see people going along and calling a lot. They put on doors. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not going to long do it. I'm sorry. But nowadays, hey, this is I don't know what to say. I mean, but right now people have all these guns out here, and the bad part about guns, I'm for guns, okay, don't get me wrong, but be trained how to use a gun. Know what you're doing. Know how to identify a target. But just to shoot, and see now they're saying in Missouri, I'll say like most states right now, you don't need to take no tests. You don't need to get no training. You're going to get your AK-47, a shotgun, and you can walk down the street. And guess what? You can be 18 years of age and older. And you can get a gun. And that makes no sense. But anyway, that's just something right now that's affected us all over the country, and especially for our young people. And another thing that I would be remiss if I didn't say something about it. Transgender has become a hot item all around the country. Laws are being changed, and I know here in Missouri, our legislator got information from a lady who worked for Washington University at one of their clinics here, and so she ended up leaving the clinic, and she made some false allegations that were proven to be false. But by that time, I'll say that they're gonna make some. Took her word as right. Okay, she testified, and they didn't do the background. She said the truth or not. So right now, all over the country, you see kids protesting against they've been targeted. They can't vote for themselves. I mean, it's like the people were being killed down there in Tennessee, where those killings took place, where we had the school shooting there with 3 young kids, 9-year-olds, lost their lives, and some of the adults, and also representatives, the Tennessee 3, and 2 black boys expelled. Well, they was all, trying to protest and tell about gun shootings. And then just the next week, we didn't talk about this, but we had 2 mass shootings in Kentucky almost in the same week. I mean, but there's so much other news going on, okay, and they didn't talk a lot about it. But also, one of the things that we have to keep in mind here, also to keep this in mind, that this past week, Fox News and agreed to pay, this is this $787.5 million Dominion voting system settle a defamation lawsuit for a false claim that Dominion didn't change with the outcome of the 2020 presidential election. Seven which came and right before a 12-member jury had seated in the Delaware Superior Court that was really a week-long trial that you could have that machine that when you could have seen that the owner of Fox News, Rupert Murdoch, and all of the top stores come before them and testify, and so the Fox News paid half of the $1.6 million, but there are other lawsuits that are taking place right now coming down the pipeline that have been sued. Now also, this settlement here did not get my fellow guys and a lot of the people off, like over there in New York and Giuliani. They are also still being sued for, by people also about the Dominion voting machine. And so there's a whole lot more lawsuits you're going to get read about in the weeks to come. And also one of the things that I'm happy to say, and I should have said earlier in the program, that there was an update on Wednesday, Center for Disease and Control and Prevention, signed off a more flexible booster schedule for people who remain at the highest risk for COVID-19. So they have a choice right now for 2015 for 2 booster shots. They get a Pfizer for their booster shots. Then you can get those now, to make sure that, because COVID right now has not totally gone away. And mainly because a lot of people did not get their vaccinations, and so they still, so the disease is still out here, in fact, a lot of us still wear our face masks, right, Red? Yeah. Because right now, at our age, you don't get a do-over. So I don't take any chance, okay? And also, this past week, while all this was going on, there was some lawsuits going back and forth in Manhattan, where former President Donald Trump was indicted a week or so ago. There was not a lawsuit, but the subpoena was given out by the United States House Representatives Jim Jordan Committee against Alvin Drags, the U.S. Manhattan attorney, trying to subpoena a former witness that had wrote a book after he had left the department there, talking about what had happened there. And so the trial is going on, and so they came together the other day and agreed. I said they, Alvin Braggs, and also the Jim Jordan Committee, to work together on allowing a former prosecutor, the guy named Mark Pomerantz, be disposed of the representative of the district attorney's office be present. That's good. Now, this is some huge news here over in the country of India. And India is a very large country. But right now, India is on track to surpass China as the most populous nation in the world. China, we got a lot of people, okay, but their population decreased some years ago when they put a ban on them having kids. And so that population went down. But in India right now, and I said India is so important, the National Chamber of Commerce, the first of this month, was requested by the country of India, country summit there. They were having 20-some nations there to be a part of. I talked about this last week, so get shut. That we went back to Kenya. Well, we were in Kenya doing a trade delegation trade mission over there. The Department of Commerce. We had a delegation there, and the delegation was there. Then we got a request to come to India. So we were able to simultaneously in two countries, to come up with an agreement in two countries where the National Chamber of Commerce has been invited into. Amen. And so right now, not only I mentioned about Kenya now, but we've also been invited to come into India. And right now, India is the most, with them saying here, it is the biggest population in the world. More people. And so whereas we may be a minority of blacks in this country, but in India, there's a whole lot of black people up there. And they got a lot of business opportunities there. They want to do some trade delegation to our country the way with our black business here, not just black business, minority business here. But that's actually coming. We don't just say we want to be black. We want to be anybody that want to be with us. So but that's the thing. We are. But we're not trying to say we're going to turn down anybody that people want to do something to improve themselves. And that's what we're here working on. And also, another good thing that I can say here that we're doing is that as we here in our country, let's see here, the Missouri Senate this past week. Oh, by the way.
Ira, you there? Ladies and gentlemen, please stand by while I get Ira back on the line.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Okay.
Well, welcome back. We had a little small technical difficulty there, and Scott took it right away for us. But what I was saying when we were out, we were talking about Tennessee, about some changes being made down there, okay, where one of the people that was accused of himself, that the expel after the ethics committee found out that he had harassment, sexual harassment allegations for some the insurance down there, which is a very, very bad thing. And also in Missouri, he was House Representatives, that the Missouri Senate just restored the money back down budget of a lot of states where libraries get money back. And this money was removed by the House Representatives here in Missouri. Because of some certain books that they felt that the library should not have. And most of the state libraries and the county libraries, school libraries, they get money from that state, and that's how they exist. And also the Missouri House and Senate agreed to limit China's ownership of land in Missouri. And also also in Missouri, the House and the Senate agreed to limit China's ownership of land in Missouri. Because in the past, China has found a lot of land in Missouri, and now there's a limit on how much land they can buy. And also here in the city of St. Louis, this past Tuesday, a new board of aldermen was sworn in. And for the first time in over 100 years, they had only 14 members of the board. They cut it in half from 14. And so there's a new change there that's taking place there. And also, here in St. Louis, in St. Louis County, the hijacking and murders continue to rise and to increase in our cities. On that note, the lunch was about Kim Commerce Way, beautiful Saturday afternoon. There was also there, Scott, and that's real. And we're about to come back with our beers. That's Bill Kovacs. Got to take it out of here. Good afternoon, St. Louis and the world. Welcome back to Lunch with the back here in Commerce Way. Beautiful Saturday afternoon. My name is Alan, folks. And today I'm honored to have one of my very, very good friends and also my mentor, also my big brother, Mr. Bill Kovacs. Bill, how you doing today?
Doing pretty well, thank you. You've given away my age. I mean, people with that description will think I'm 150, and I'm only 100 now.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. But Bill, the longer you're here, the more wisdom you have to share. Okay.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. And right now, we need wisdom more so than ever before.
Amen.
If you're gonna find wisdom, you better go to a higher level person than me, because I'll tell you, I don't think there's a lot anymore in Washington D.C. or Sin City or whatever you want to call it. This place is going crazy.
Well, Bill, it's funny you would say that, okay? But I can't just blame D.C., okay? But around the country as a whole, you know, there's so much going on, you know, and just before we get started here, I just want to kind of let people know a little bit about this. Bill wrote a book over a year ago, and you would have thought that the book you wrote it just yesterday, because it is so timely. And the name of the book is called Reform the Ecostocracy. That's it, right, Bill?
Ecostocracy, yeah. You're getting close.
Okay. I was posting on what it had been in the past, okay? But people not understand what that means. Ecostocracy, ruled by the least principal citizen, is a form of government in which the people least qualified control the government are the people who control the government. And so right now, not just in D.C., you know, but also, you know, most of our state capitals, you know, when we have our legislators, you know, who make our laws and rules, also in our local city councils and also our local education board, there's total chaos right now in every level. Am I right, Bill?
You're absolutely right. It's total chaos. But I think one of the things that I do write about in the book is that our legislators, our entire government, forgets that they represent us. That there's no power given to them. The power is given to them as our representatives, and they're to uphold the Constitution and make sure that they protect the laws and to protect the institution in which they serve and to be a check on the other branches of government. They're not there to be political fighters. And as I heard you going over your list with, you've got half the board in St. Louis, and we've got the problems in Tennessee, and Congress can't come to a debt ceiling. These people, when you listen to their arguments, one saying, well, I want to win, and the other side saying, I'm going to win. But the American people are the ones who lose in this situation. And part of what's happened, especially with the federal government, is we started out as a nation of limited government. Very, very small, really, until the Great Depression in the 1930s. Government was very small, and states really did most of the work. And the federal government decided it should do everything. So instead of being a small government, it now runs everything. I mean, if I told you, there's a big program on just how you shelter an animal under federal law. So if they catch an animal, that animal's got to have air conditioning and a doctor available. A lot of people don't have air conditioning and a doctor available. And we've just gotten to the point where we're goofy. So when I talk about reforming the taxocracy, the rule as you described it, the rule by the least able or least principled citizens, we've got people running it who are there for their own power, their own sake, their own way to make money. They're not there. We're forgotten. We're just totally forgotten out here. And
I got something right here, okay? Just what you just mentioned, okay, about animals. Here in Missouri, or in St. Louis, okay, I have seen people getting more time for killing or abusing an animal than they have got for killing people. I mean, I'm serious.
No, I know that. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying, and in most cases, we have killings and rapes and abuse all the time. But I know right now, in our legislators, we now have all type of rules that have been created. Okay, they give dogs and cats. Now I have a dog. Okay, where I ain't gonna deny that and love them to death. But at the same time, I don't see him, okay, as a person that's paying taxes, okay. As a person that we take care of. Most animals, okay, have more rights than people who are paying taxes to our government.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing I want to bring up there.
And they have more people to defend them than most people.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And the whole government's become nothing but a group of people who are protecting the rights of really small groups. And and I mean, as long as we're on this topic, one of the things that bothers me the most is we're always complaining about money, but we will spend millions and tens of millions in Chicago and New York to put illegal immigrants in the finest hotels, and yet we have veterans who've lost arms and legs sitting on the street begging for money. That's just unconscionable.
They're homeless. They're homeless.
Yes.
Most of the veterans out there nowadays that go around in St. Louis here, I guess for the rest of the country, majority of them, homeless, and in most cases here in St. Louis, we got a big old hospital for the VA, and a lot of those are not just homeless, okay, they also need medical attention from PSD and all type of things like that.
Right.
And they're not getting any treatment or any respect out here, and we have people fighting more for dog rights and dog shelters, than they do for people that's fantastic.
Yeah. No, it's terrible. I mean, the other thing that's part of this whole issue of the homeless and not having shelter, the average price of a house in this country, and you and Ira have talked about this many times, the average price of a house, I think it's around $275, $300, maybe $325, but it's around there. The average price to build one unit of low-income housing is over $400,000, and if you build it in San Francisco, it's over $1 million.
Yes.
And 40 to 45% of the cost of building a new unit is government regulation. If we really, honestly, and truly need to help people who need a home, then we need to figure out how to get rid of the 45% of the regulations, or a good percentage of them, and get these houses built. Instead, what we have is we're putting people in expensive hotels. We're trying to bring them food on the street. Get them a house. Get them a job. But let's do something that really moves the ball forward. We've been talking about this low-income housing, I don't know, 50, 60, well, we've been talking about it since the 60s. Well, how can you have something that costs more to build than the average person can afford to buy a house for? So if it costs at a minimum $400,000 to build a low-income unit, but the average price of a house is $300,000, most people are buying $300,000 houses because that's what they can afford. Why should we spend $400,000 for a homeless person? Let's get rid of the regulation and get the units down to $200,000, and start building them as opposed to talking about it. That's what the problem is. And you're not
well, Bill, I'm not sure how it is up in D.C. on the East Coast there, okay? But I know that here in the state of Missouri, and also Illinois, too, I know this area here, that a lot of people being forced out of their homes because of code enforcement. Where, when homes were built, rules have changed, okay, said you got to change this out, you got to put this in, you got to have this type of maturity, you got to have some new rules now. And so in St. Louis, we had over a couple thousand homes, okay, that people were put out of because of code enforcement. And now we have those homes sitting vacant here. I do mean vacant here. Then they got to be tore down, okay. And a lot of them a good brick concrete, brick homes are St. Louis, Missouri used to be known for bricks. And now we're getting homes that big homes are kind of hard to come by nowadays. All big homes. It's because right now bricks are kind of hard for him to build a big home like we used to. But now, it's just being tore down. And those bricks, I know, I know that those bricks sell cost so much more now just to get some bricks from a home. The bricks are more valuable when the house is torn down than when the house is standing up.
No, it's terrible. But when government's run by people who don't have any common sense or brains, and I don't mean it, and I do mean it in a derogatory sense, but sometimes you have to look at the properties you have. Like around here, we don't have that problem where they're moving you out because of code violation. We have a different problem. We have people who are elderly or sick, and perhaps they don't pay a tax bill or something. They may owe a couple $1,000s in taxes, and the government comes in and takes their home and keeps the proceeds. I mean,
same here.
This is insanity what we're doing, but it all comes back to. It all comes back to we meaning you, me, the people, everybody who gets up every morning, goes to work, and goes to the polls and votes. We put these people in office. And, the problem is us. I mean, we've got to find people who really want to serve, who want to be fiduciaries to the citizens, and we don't have them right now. Everybody's into politics for their own benefit. I mean, right now, people go into politics to make money. Nobody should be in politics. I mean, they shouldn't be starving to death, but they shouldn't be making money. And if you look at it, especially at the federal level, they go into politics and they make their $200,000 a year, and they come out and they make $2 million a year. It's really sort of this revolving circle of here, you want to make money, go into politics. Around here, we don't have like a big high-tech community where people can make tens of millions. But what we have is the government, and if you go into the government and come out, you make a lot of money. And
I'm going to put Missouri here again, okay? We just had Senator Blunt, okay, who has served, for many, many years, okay. He was the House representative, former governor here. Well, right now, he's just retired, and now he's making more, twice the money, okay, that he would have made, okay, was making in Congress now, 3 to 4 times the money now, and he's hitting a whole division for a law firm, okay, how to go back and lobby the government.
Sure. It's pretty common. I mean, if they can make the money, they should be able to. But what's happening is it's not that they're making the money because they have skills or brains. They're making the money because they have connections in government and they can cut a deal with the government that helps them and hurts us. That's the problem. It's not that they're making money. If somebody comes up with a new product and does something that's really innovative or has something that sells and people really want it, that's fabulous. But if you're going in and the only thing you're selling is your connection to the guy in government who writes the checks, that's wrong. That's really what it is. It's their money, their value is not because they have skills or brains. Their value is because they have a connection with a person who can write a check to them. That's what the problem is.
Well, Bill, again, I just have to use Missouri, okay, as an example here. Just in the last month here, we have a lottery, that most states have now, right? And so they're attempting to pass a law now that if you win for the lottery, that you cannot quit your job and start working for a company, okay, that will survive the service to the lottery. And that's the place because a lot of the people who were join the lottery left the lottery system, okay, into big time jobs. Dispatch out people that they have those things like that. And they just go down. So and also in Missouri, we have had people who were retired from the House Representatives. I think we passed a bill, okay, for companies, right? Then their company would have them right out of after we have had people step down, but the leader of the House Representatives here step down from the leadership post to the job with the company that for the bill he just passed the last session.
Yep.
I mean, 4 or 5 times more money. That's not right, Bill.
It's not. But again, we tolerate it. The people, we get to vote every other year. Sometimes, like in Virginia, we vote every year because we have off-year elections. But if you elect that kind of a person, that's the kind of government you're going to get. I mean, the government is nothing more than a reflection of the people who vote for it. And if we allow corruption to go, I hate to say it, it's our fault. And, look, you're doing your part. You got your radio show. I do my writing. But we're a country of 325 million people, and a lot of people who don't pay any attention to it, and this is what we get.
Also, Bill, we just got right into talking about the book, okay? But let us talk a little about Bill Kovacs. I met you when you were the United States Chamber of Commerce, so let's start there. What did you do prior to, tell us a bit about Bill Kovacs? I know you got 2 beautiful sons, a beautiful wife, and a beautiful daughter, and then I worked with, in the past. Tell us a bit about Bill Kovacs.
Actually, believe it or not, I started my career on Capitol Hill. I was a counsel to a member of Congress, and then I became chief counsel to the Transportation and Commerce Committee, and that was probably the most exciting job I ever had because I was there, and it sort of gives my age away. Do you remember when the Penn Central Railroad went bankrupt and all the railroads in the United States were going to stop, commerce was going to stop? Well, I was the chief counsel to reorganize the railroad.
Oh, wow.
So that was really a very exciting time because if we were under a court order to get it done in a year and we got it done in 10 months. And here was an example where we reorganized, I don't know, several 100,000 miles of track, millions of employees, businesses, long lines, short lines, you name it.
Yeah, that was humongous. Okay.
We did the whole thing in 10 months because we worked at it. We knew we had to do it, and we knew we had to compromise to get stuff done, and we did it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care whether you were a Republican or a Democrat or a socialist. All I knew is we had a railroad that we had to get done, and we got it done, and that was really exciting. Just so you know, after I did the railroad, I never did any transportation work or anything like that at all. just so you know, and it wasn't that I had I made my contribution and that was enough, and I wanted to do something different. And the next thing I did is, as chief counsel, we got the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act done, RCRA, which regulated hazardous waste. And if you remember at the time, we had rivers like the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland was on fire. Mm-hmm. We had landfill dumps all across the United States. Well, RCRA cleaned all that up. So that's what I did. After that, I decided I'd use my law degree for much longer than I ever intended. I was in private law practice for about 18 years, and I did a variety of things. Mostly, I did some trial work, did some environmental work, just a variety of things just to sort of keep the lights on. And then after that, a friend of mine became president of the U.S. Chamber and asked me to come over and serve over there and run the Environment, Technology, and Regulatory Affairs Division, which I did. And I have a lot of fun. It's where I met you and Harry. And Doc, and it was just, it was a lot of fun. It gave me the chance to travel all over the United States and meet people and give speeches in various places, travel in foreign countries. It was a lot of fun. You do some radio shows, do a little bit of writing, and I stayed there for 20 years. And and some days in 2018, some days you wake up and you say, I don't know what more I can do. The world has gone by. It's time to do something else. And I had always wanted to write, so I stopped doing that and started writing. And since then, I've done 2 books, and I write regular articles for the Libertarian Republic, the Thinking Conservative, the Hill, Town Hall, a variety of, and Reform the Cacistocracy, so a variety of ones. And then periodically I talk to my friends on the radio, like you.
Okay, you just, I forgot about what you did with the railroad. In the last 6 months, okay, we have had a lot of railroad accidents that have been, real bad accidents. And most of the time, we're finding that some of the laws that have been probably established, you did probably years ago, have been kind of rolled back. What are your thoughts right now on the industry and the railroad you with about that now what they kind of look at?
Well, I mean, look, there's no excuse for a railroad having accidents with trains going off the track. It's just that simple. Railroads aren't like rocket ships. These are 2 tracks that have to be level for the entire length of the trip. These are not, we come up with all these things. You've got to disclose what kind of materials you have. I mean, a lot of the hazardous materials were not disclosed. Nobody seemed to know what was going on. When we put the hazmat laws together, it was really pretty simple. It was tell local emergency people what's on the train in case there's an accident. It's really pretty simple. The tracks have to be straight. They have to be level. They have to be tested periodically. Railroads are not. I mean, yes, the CEO is going to tell you the most complicated thing in the world. Look, when we were doing the reorganization, we had probably several 100,000 excess miles. And we were told by the unions and the states and the farmers, everybody told us, if you can't take this away, you can't take this away. If you take this away, the railroad won't work. And we had a very good study done by Princeton University, or Mathematica. And what we did is we did an analysis of where does all this freight go? How does it get there? And what we found out is the same thing applies to railroads as applies to everything else. 90% of the freight went on 20% of the track. And we didn't need all of it. We just didn't need everything else. And there were places where you had an entire railroad serving one farm. Well, isn't it cheaper for that farm to get the material to a railroad station than for the entire railroad to go to the farm? I mean, you just have to apply common sense. You're dealing with people, and sometimes people, the problem is, and I'll tell you this honestly, I know a lot of people in this country. Most of them really are smart. They're not smart like they can do calculations and they're going to go in and do a math formula or physics or quantum mechanics. They just know you got to have straight tracks for a railroad.
The railroad, the principles have changed since the first railroad. You got to do segments, the tracks wide. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They got to have segments. As a small kid, I was down south. I used to walk on the railroad. We have fun. And when the train can't get off the track. Yeah. That hasn't changed. Okay, they still make all that noise. They got all that engagement now, but now some of the problems they have, that are common sense things that they redid. Okay, they're not checking the brakes on the train to make sure that they, and like you just said earlier on, that maintaining the track in your train is like maintaining your car.
Well, it's one of the reasons why they have vehicle inspections for automobiles. You got to go in every 6 months or every year, or whatever you go in for. They check your brakes, they check your lights. Why do they do that? So your car doesn't lose its brakes while you're driving. And the same thing, but I'm sure that the railroads are like everybody else. If you look, and in some fairness, we started this years ago. When we were doing reorganization, there were so many people working that was called feather bedding at the time. But you might have had 100 people working a train when you needed 20. Well, right now, those 20 are probably down to 2.
Right.
So nobody's really checking anything. They're just sort of assuming everything's working. And it goes back to like automobiles. The reason you check is so that you don't have the problem on the road. Again, it's common sense. You don't need to be a railroad engineer or any kind of an engineer to figure this out. It's like you check the tracks.
Well, the thing that mostly we find now that the brakes on the trains are overheating. And they now have sensors on the trains. I guess now they hold electronics that somebody know, or then they'll either lock up, which is automatically and naturally they lock up. And I think another thing that I have found fascinating is that I never saw trains as long as they are now. And here I just also feel they now have locomotives. I always was taught, I'm not always taught, that's what I seen or saw, that the locomotive was at the head of the train and pulled the train. Now they have a locomotive in the middle of the train working. How does that work?
I don't know, but I'm assuming what it is to be able to pull some and push some, just to make them longer. But again, it's every time you add something, every time you add length to it, it creates other problems. Just like, why do you think they have limits on truck sizes?
Right.
They have limits on truck sizes because it's harder to control a big truck. Well, it's got to be harder to control a big train. And
right.
But what they're saying is, well, we're making the transportation cheaper, and maybe they are, but right now, the railroad industry in the last 50 years has become extraordinarily profitable. I mean, when the Penn Central went bankrupt, they were really losing money everywhere, and the work rules everything was terrible, and that got straightened out. And now they've gone to the other extreme where they save every penny they can at the risk of safety. I'm shocked because I think the people of East Palestine have been very, very patient in waiting for both federal help and state help, and they're sitting there with a lot of toxic waste that nobody knows what it is. I don't know if it's harmful or not. I'm assuming it probably is. But, you know, I'm surprised that they didn't, several things didn't happen. One is that as soon as the spill occurred, that they didn't, because there was water involved, that they didn't invoke the penalties under the water laws and hazardous waste laws and Superfund, because all of these chemicals went immediately on the ground. And at that point in time, day one, second one, there should have been federal orders out there for a cleanup. Not a cleanup
right away
for the city. There should have been cleanup by the railroad. The railroad spilled it. The railroad should have gotten there, and the railroad should have cleaned it up. Not this idea of, well, we're going to wait 14 days and see who shows up and see if there's any federal money. And no, there should have been an immediate, you spilled it, you clean it up. And that it's that simple. So,
funny you were mentioning that. Yesterday, Joe Biden signed an executive order that will create a White House Office of Environmental Justice. He said what he wants to do is ensure that poverty rates and ethnic status without even worse exposure to pollution, environmental harm. And this is what it's saying that right now. You just said here, the Republicans call for less regulation in oil, in oil production to lower energy costs. While they take it away, make it cheaper, they're making more money. The price they're hauling down will be more expensive.
yes.
So they're not losing money. And they said they're making billions and billions of dollars. But like you said, something that caught my ear here. Be down to maybe 2 people wait on a train where you have 100 people or 20 people. That's a problem right there.
Right, that's a huge problem. The other, as you were talking about the Office of Environmental Justice, and I have mixed feelings, certainly mixed feelings about that. Number one, the environmental laws of the United States should apply to every community equally.
Thank you, sir.
If you can't pollute in Beverly Hills, you can't pollute in East Palestine. It's that simple. And they're setting up an Office of Environmental Justice to say, well, poor and minority communities have been more affected. They should have the same legal protection as every other community. There's no reason, just because East Palestine or whatever is poorer than someplace else, or East St. Louis or whatever, it doesn't make any difference.
Right.
The environmental laws, and I think we make lawmaking too complicated. In other words, the environmental laws applied everywhere equally, and everybody was cleaning up the mess wherever it is. You wouldn't need an Office of Environmental Justice to say, let's think about how we can clean up the mess. No. Why are you thinking about that? Why don't you just clean up the mess? You've got the laws, you can do it.
Well, one of the things, we understand that what's going on from the federal government in D.C. is kind of, it's more chaos than the government.
You're kind.
Okay, they can. But having said that, most local governments right now, when it comes to pollution or whatever, they are passing laws saying, I do not want this in my neighborhood.
Right.
And if that's nice, you share, probably that's much where you are, that we have these cities around St. Louis that have said they don't want common things to come to be in their city. They want to go to another city. And they can less afford to do certain things. And they right next to each other.
Well, nobody wants anything in their city. Let me tell you, I was one of the jobs that I did omit because it was only part-time. I was chairman of the Hazardous Waste Facility Siting Board in Virginia for 2 years. And the way we dealt with, they called it the NIMBY problem, not in my backyard. The way I dealt with it is, and I was pretty successful. I told everybody, look, we're gonna put this facility in the neighborhood that wants it. We're not going to put any facility in a neighborhood that doesn't. But let me tell you, there are going to be incentives for neighborhoods to take it. And so I went to the companies and I said, okay, here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to go and you're going to have to tell the host community what it is you're going to do, what the protections are, and what incentives you're going to build. Are you going to build them a new school, a new community center? Are you going to help with downtown? Are you going to do low-income housing? It was amazing because once those incentives were in place, it was a lot easier to deal with cities for several reasons. One is they said, we know what the safety standards are going to be. We still don't want the facility, but we're going to get 2 new schools and a new community center. So it's going to help us. So there's a trade-off. And my feeling was always that if you just tell a community, we're putting this here because this is where we want to put it, the community's mostly going to say, no, we don't want it. But if you tell the community you're going to do something for them, then they have to think, is it better to have this done, or is it better to just live the way we're living? And most communities will say, gee, we need this. And every community wanted something completely different. Nobody wanted the same thing. But that's fine, because every community needs something different. And it was a good way for the industry to figure out what they were going to do. The community knew what kind of protections they were going to have, because if they didn't get the protections, they weren't going to agree to it at all, as opposed to government going into a place and just shoving it down your throat. You can't do that. But the other side of it is, look, and this really bothers me. Let's take Alaska and the oil reserves. There's an example where Alaskans, especially the indigenous Alaskans, want the oil companies they've always wanted them to pump oil. Why? Because until Obama, Alaska generated so much profit from the oil business that it actually gave every citizen, it paid citizens. It didn't collect taxes. It paid citizens to be citizens in Alaska. And the few times that I was up there, because I was dealing with the indigenous people, especially in the Pebble Mine, I mean, they were crying to me saying, please don't let the government shut this down. This is our only source of income for our entire community. And you have to realize that certain places like Alaska, where they have a lot of oil and they're way out of the way, they haven't had any spills other than the Exxon Valdez, but that was because of a drunk captain. That had nothing to do with, the pipelines.
A human error.
And some communities might want oil, and we should let them have it. But what happens is the national organizations, like the environmental groups, they organize. They don't live in Alaska. They don't even want to be in Alaska, but they don't want Alaska. They don't want Alaska to pump oil. Well, that's wrong too. So when you get to these, local community things, I think there really are ways to handle them. It's just that, again, you gotta get government out of the way and bring in people who are just frankly have common sense. Some days I think it'd be better just to have people elected to Congress randomly. In other words, take a dart and throw it against the wall or something, or pick people out of the telephone book or whatever. You can't do any worse.
Well, I wouldn't be remiss if I didn't bring this up, okay? George Santos, New York Congressman from New York, he got elected, and he had told all types of good lies, And I know one of the things that a lot of people don't go into politics at certain levels because it's all the scrutiny that comes with it. I mean, your whole background, your whole life going to be exposed, and all this. And so if you tell a lie, okay, they're going to be exposed to you. Well, you know all about that, okay? And so right now, okay, we're looking at it right now that he is there making more money than made his entire life legally, okay? And then when the staff go with him,
Glad you put in legally.
I said legally, okay. And he has his staff go along with that. and the Republican Party in New York said we don't want you. But he said I'm gonna run for re-election.
Yeah.
Mainly because what you just said. He served a full term. And also I will be remiss if I didn't ask you about with the constituency is actually at full play in our House of Representatives right now in D.C. Because right now, Mr. McCarthy is only controlling by maybe 4 or 5 votes right now. He had so many sessions, to get the job. And there were so many concessions made that didn't make good sense. They made different people, okay, they cut deals. And so now, what are your thoughts about now, okay, how they operate? Because since they've been in session this year, there have been very few things in the House, okay, they have done that applies to railroad safety, things like that we have heard about. We have heard about out here, okay, now we have found a lot of stuff. They're saying this will help the government, okay, but it's all been kind of personal. What are your thoughts about that?
Let me start off with the big picture first. The fact is, we have a $32 trillion national debt that comes out to about.
That's first. And now we wait to the last lesson said that this way here, it's got stories, okay, now you're just discussing it.
Your share of the national debt, you're a taxpayer, is $260,000. My share is $260,000. With interest being probably pushing things up to more than $500 billion a year just on the interest, our shares are going to go up and up and up, and eventually, whether like it or not, our children at some point in time, and your grandchildren, my grandchildren, whatever, they're literally, if the United States is going to survive, they're literally going to be in involuntary servitude to the federal government, because there's no way that this debt can be paid without the federal government taxing and taxing and taxing. So that's the overall view. Whatever Biden wants to do or whatever McCarthy wants to do, the fact is that we cannot continue to have each taxpayer owe $260,000. We can't. It's got to stop.
At some point.
At some point. The second thing is, we give out we give out in terms of state programs around $750 billion and another $500 billion in grants to friends, and now we're doing roughly $1 trillion on green technology. So that's $1.5 trillion, $2 trillion that goes virtually to private people or contractors or consultants. I'm not sure that they should get it. So if you read, and
also we had all the money we give away around the world to other countries.
Right. And so there are ways to cut this back that doesn't really hurt anyone. So, I think that there are things that you really can't cut, and I'm showing my age, Social Security and Medicare.
No, our age.
Yeah, but I got a different reason than our age.
Go ahead.
If I was getting the Social Security for free, I would say I probably don't deserve it, and I would say thank you, but I would recognize I didn't deserve it. But I don't know, I started paying at age 16, so without, it's 60 years of paying into the system. I put a lot of money into the system, and if that money, I read an article one time that if you just put it into the bank and the bank compounded it at 5% a year, which is less than what you could have gotten over all those years, you'd be far further ahead than what the government's going to give you. So as far as I'm concerned, they've had my money for 60 years, and they owe me something. I feel like, I've bought this. To me, I bought an annuity, and it's just the federal government instead of an insurance company. That's how I look at it. Now, getting down to, between McCarthy and Biden and Schumer, I think they're both nuts. McCarthy's trying to be reasonable in the stuff that he's put out. is really not bad. I think Biden saying you've just got to have a clean one is really a little bit crazy, because you can't have a clean one. You can't spend more. I think you've got to go down every single thing and ask yourself, well, what is it that we're doing? One of the things that McCarthy wants to do is put on a cap on spending for the next, 10 years at 1% growth. 1% growth is not a lot, but we've already spent $32 trillion. That's a lot. We have more debt than the entire value of the United States, virtually.
That sounds over.
Yeah. So, and then the other stuff is, 80,000 new IRS agents. We only have 10 or 12,000 agents on the border, and we're going to have 80,000 IRS. I mean, it's just, again, common sense. Where's your common sense? If they said we're going to put an additional 10,000 IRS agents in because, we've got some problems and we've got to audit some bigger people, okay, go do it. But, 80,000. So that's another, $200. You've got $700 billion that are out there in unobligated pandemic funding. Well, if it's been unobligated and nobody's spending it, and it's just sitting in somebody's basket, take the money back. Well, you don't have to spend it; just take it back. You could rescind the $70 or $80 billion right there. Asking adults who have no dependents to work in order to get welfare payments. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, look, I've been working since I was 12 with the paper route. So, I mean, I don't even think about it. I just get up and you just do it. Obviously, a lot of the people today and a lot of the younger generation don't think you have that obligation. So that's a mindset. But if the society is going to pay you, they probably expect something from it. And then again, if you look at a lot of the things in my book, we have, every year, we fund 1,000 laws that are not authorized by Congress. Let me repeat that. We fund 1,000 laws that are not authorized by Congress to the tune of to a little over $500 billion. There's plenty of
lot of money.
There's so much money everywhere. And why I sort of like McCarthy's is he's picking stuff up. The money's not spent, so let's get it back. Let's limit the growth going forward in the future. Do we really need to spend another $1.2 trillion on green technology? Well, we really don't, because we don't even have enough infrastructure to take the electricity generated from wind and solar now. So there are a lot of things that we could do. Whether McCarthy's, the 4 or 5 points that he raises are the right ones, I don't know. I've got 10 different ones in my book. Are they the right ones? I don't know. What I'm telling you is there are so many pots of wasted money that you just pick your pots. That's all you have to do. This isn't the game. I mean, it's like if you went home and you had money all over the living room, just all over the floor, on the floor, in boxes, whatever, and your wife comes in and says, we need a little bit more money because we're really short this month, and I have to get something for the grandkids, and I have to do this. I need an extra $500. You wouldn't say to her, go to the bank and take out a loan. You would say, pick the money off the floor, bring it back, put it in the bank, and then write the check from that. I mean, that's what we're talking about. I mean, again, coming back to, it's just a lot of this stuff is just common sense that people have to think about. What's out there that we're not doing? And if you just look at it, if you have 1,000 programs that are unauthorized, costing us $500 billion, you picked up $500 billion. If you really don't need all the green, the 1.2, the bill started out, Biden said it was only going to be $300 billion. Well, now it's $1.2 billion. That's an extra $900 billion. So between the $900 and the $500 billion, you've got $1.4 trillion, and we haven't even touched anything that anybody wants.
Yeah, well, look, I have to agree, okay, that in our country, that, and I looked at some of the things that you mentioned there, and like that, I'm one thing is okay that we support, like Saudi Arabia and different countries like that, you know, those are places like that who got who money, and we give all those people money, you know, and they got money.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, so I mean. And then they turn around and slap us out of here.
Yeah. Well,
but let me say this to you. Okay? I think one on my way, Chuck the boy just joined us on. How you doing, Chuck?
Good afternoon. How are you?
Nice
How are
to
you,
meet you.
Mr. Kovacs? Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody.
I'm always doing well, Chuck. How about you? Just before we get into a long conversation, I had told Ira I do have a hard leave at 3:45.
Okay.
Hey, man.
I have something more important than your radio show. My family. They're in from out of town.
No. You got to. We always have family first. You don't take your family. No, Bill. I'm not sure you're aware of this, but Chuck just successfully did something I thought was. I put it to another email today. Our chamber, the manufacturing company, was part of a delegation that Chuck that went to Kenya. You know, most recently. And while they were there, they got an invite from the country of India to come up there to be part of a trade delegation to come up there. So why don't you tell them better than I can tell them what I'm talking about here?
Well, we got a little bit of time. Bill, what these are traditional trade missions, and the Department of Commerce led executive-led trade mission was to Kenya, and I was invited by Undersecretary Cravens to join them, and we did, and it went very well. But simultaneously, we had an invite from India to attend the SoFi Technology Conference, as well as the Delete Chamber of Commerce and Industries G20 Summit. And both went very well. And it's something we could probably talk a lot about forthgoing, but the talking is kind of like, what is the action, that we'll do?
Right.
And that's where the commerce and type of topics of what I came in on about what we're doing as a country and where the resources are going and what's the return on investment.
Well, if you've got any good ideas, please share them before I leave. Okay.
Well, ours is simple. We're sticking to our mission. It's economic empowerment throughout the diaspora through commerce, through doing business with each other. And I see what I think is, and it probably is, as a country, we've got to shore up our trading partners and the people that are in support of one mind with our economic policies, as opposed to what's going on with China and Russia and Brazil and South Africa as they're looking to place the dollar. But a lot of that has to do with us updating our policies and trying to get everybody on the same page.
Well, good luck on that one.
Yeah, there's no luck. It's not going to happen. Anytime it's defaulted and led up to politicians and politics, it has not had much success.
One of the things is, as you talk about shoring up our trading partners and getting everyone on the same page, I mean, a lot of what Ira and I were talking about today was, just using common sense. I mean, one of the things, if the federal government could just focus on securing the country, international trade, and its relationship with our friends, and just let the states take over a lot of the domestic issues. I think government would be able to focus. Right now, I don't think there's any focus at all. I just think it's like a little kid in a toy store. They, every toy they see they want, and it's not helping anybody. There's no focus in our government today. I mean, if you look at, I don't want to get into China or debate because I got to go soon, but if you look at what China's done with the Belt and Road Initiative and the amount of money it's putting into developing countries and resource bases and the acquisition of resources for the future and colonizing the moon, it's pretty frightening considering, that we've got a defense secretary who talks about what kind of books he's reading over the weekend to get keyed into the culture. It's a problem. I mean, that's my view. And I think that there are things we can do, but we've got to begin focusing our attention on the debt. And I agree. I think we've got to focus it on our friends and our partners. Whatever.
I know. And also, before you came in, okay, well, we were kind of focusing, okay, on Bill's book, the autocracy, about at least the people who should be governing. And how, I guess, people that's in charge right now, and in house and city, just in charge, and are government not just national but also local, but right now nationally, that the things that's taking place that people are in need of, they're not being discussed, I mean, they're not being made, okay? Or just said they're like in a candy store, and they just pick up things that they think they want to have, but not, just what we need to have in our community. What it was in there for.
So,
right, Leo?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what more you add to it. It's we're in a state of chaos, and I think we got to get out of it. But I will let you and Chuck figure that one out. In the next half hour, I expect that the world will somewhat be saved. It won't be. You guys will hopefully be as pessimistic as I am. I mean, it's a rainy day. It's a rainy day here, but I'm just not seeing progress. I just am not seeing it. Chuck, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm just not seeing it.
Well, you're absolutely right, but you don't. It doesn't have to be subjective. If you just go by the facts, there's no productivity. There's nothing coming out of it. I mean, we're seeing things from another perspective, and I was looking at while we were there, and it was in Kenya, and it was the closest thing I've seen to any type of cohesiveness from the top down on trying to go and get something done. But while Kamala Harris, our vice president, was there, she was trying to talk about human rights, but it was really gay rights guised as human rights. And they stopped her mid-sentence and said, we don't have that problem here. We have some legislation, we have some things we're doing it, but we don't even need to talk about that. And they cut it off. But it was a sign of me that, maybe we're not in touch, or maybe we're not on the right point or the right talking points to get somebody to even want to listen to you, so that you can begin to put some new ideas or some other thoughts out there.
That's an excellent point. But we're not in touch. We're really out of touch.
It's embarrassing. It's bad, and I think society at large, civil society particularly, we're going ahead and doing what we can do within our own reach. But you're right, and I think I don't know. We'll see. I think the elections are going to reflect that.
Well, it's going to be a fascinating election. Could be Biden and Trump.
Yeah, more of the stuff.
I think we all agree on that. We are something. We all agree on that. Well, Bill, I don't want to say I hear you over that, okay, but I want to thank you so much, okay?
Thank you very much. See you later, and Chuck, great talking to you again, and thanks, Ira. See you later. Bye, guys.
Thanks. Take care.
Okay. Okay. Okay, that was Bill Kovacs. Y'all was doing it, periodically and share some of his thoughts, some of the things that he's doing. And now we're talking about right now the chaos in government, which is Chuck kind of said it's around the world. How he's been around our global traveler, our global ambassador. I'll get Chuck. It's unbelievable thing that you have done, and that's why I was kind of raising that. Right when you came in, but we had talked a little bit about today about India and Kenya. And so I'm going to go back to India right now. This prediction right now about United Nations statistics, India will become the largest, most populated country in the world. And so with you going there, is there any benefits to our country for the black community from that we can speak on from that job?
Yeah, and just the fact that you're asking is really incumbent on the National Black Chamber, and what we're doing is what do we see? What opportunity? And think of it as it can be on any level, from a farmer to somebody like, some of the businesses we have. We have a company like just makes unique sunglasses, colorful, like black folks like, with all kind of patterns, and just something different that isn't your standard cookie cutter kind of thing that's out here. And if we're able to find a good or a product or something that's unique, like one of the ladies that went on the trade mission, we're on a Zoom call, and I'm looking at her earrings. I'm saying, "Did you get those in India?" And she goes, "Yeah, you like them?" I said, "Yeah, but those are different. They're unique." And they were like gold, but just had that kind of Hindu or whatever whatever generated the design. Wherever the genesis of where it came from, it was different. And, it didn't mean anything to me religious-wise, or it wasn't that deep, but it was just a nice design. And she said, "Yeah, I'm getting a lot of compliments and people want them." And I just looked at me and said, we're just exposing new products from different cultures, different mindsets, and different people. And if we acquiesce to the human element, that, I used to have an uncle, he would say, design is everywhere. Design, creativity, whatever somebody wants to do. And that's really what we're doing, is making connections. So to answer your question, we're setting up trading partners, direct trading partners. You have an Amazon now that you can get your product on, and don't tell them where the buyer or what you buy, don't tell them where it's coming from. But it isn't sufficing all needs. And a lot of people just want to say, "Hey, can I have, through my website, can I find somebody, or can I learn what you all learn? Can we experience what you experience?" So they want to understand entrepreneurial development. They want to understand exporting, importing. They want to understand what might be available, because in other countries, they're not giving attention to small business, and they don't have organizations such as ours that is dedicated to that, as opposed to, as Bill was talking about, the lack of getting what we need from our government. So, they want us to be big government and depend on it a lot. But boy, look at all the stuff we don't have. So let me give you another example. That it's home. So let's say we got small farmers, and when I say small, I mean they don't have a lot of land. In some cases, they may not even have a tractor or a plow or whatever, but they can grow what they can grow with their old style, old hand. Like, get out in that field and pick it, or bring a bunch of people over. We're gonna have a pick party, and we're gonna try and harvest our crop. Well, there are
like an old days.
Yeah. I mean, but the old days are the current days in a lot of places still, from that regards. So how do we address that? But then that person can still sell what they've got. So in Africa, what they were doing is they would take, let's say somebody with 10 hectares or something, they're growing rice, but they would allow them to put it in something like a storage Ziploc bag type of thing, and they would be able to deliver it to somebody else that wants to buy it. So you didn't have to have bushels and tons and all that and be a commercial farmer to have any type of sales. But what happens when you do that is you are directly connecting with the consumer. The middleman is somewhat knocked out of that. You know, because what they'll do is like with the coffee, people growing coffee, they'll sell a kilo bag of beans. That's 2.2 pounds of green coffee beans, and they'll sell it for like $2.50. But when you roast it, which is what we call adding value, you added value to it. When you roast it, and then maybe you even grind it or put it into a can and it's grains and it sells, that's one thing. You know, so what's a can of coffee cost in the store? Well, then what's a cup of coffee cost? You know, you go into Starbucks and it's like $4.50, $5 or more for a cup of coffee, of which this high quality coffee that was coming, like let's say Kenya, or it comes from Jamaica, or it comes from Costa Rica, or Colombia, or Uganda, or Ethiopia. So some of the best coffees in the world, Arabica coffee, they're only taking a small percentage of it, like in a Starbucks. And so 17% of that coffee is so strong and gives so much flavor. They'll put some Robusto coffee with it. It doesn't have that much flavor, and you'll have a much cheaper product, but it's still selling for $5 a cup, or whatever the cost is. So by not having a roaster, not having that end product that can go to the consumer, the grower is cut out of completely. And you can't afford to operate a farm if you're always marginalized to the minimum, you know, the smallest amount. So that's part of what we're doing, direct business, doing business with each other. And in the process of that, so, you know, Ira, when you talk about minorities and, you know, how many people, and, you know, we're brainwashed into thinking that we're too little or too small. But when you start aggregating groups that we can work together, let's just say it's no more common denominator than we're all small business. That's frightening. That's frightening to big business. All of a sudden you say, this is like, you know, we get crazy, but meat, what's going on with the meat now? They're doing so much stuff that a lot of people become vegetarians because they know they can't trust this factory type of production that's going on and what they're doing to the animals and all that. And you know, and so you look at it and say, well, here's a small farm, like in Kenya. They were asking me about pork. They said, we can't get enough pork. And part of the problem is they don't have the feed. They don't have the ability to raise livestock. And the ones you see going up and down the road look like they haven't eaten. I mean, they're, you know, and so it just makes you say, I don't know, I could go vegetarian today. You know, I don't need to mess with that because it's not right, and they're trying to force nature. They're trying to force nature's hand. And whether there's a drought or whether there's all these other things going on, we're not using our brains as much as we're trying to use machines to force something. So with the innovation, go ahead.
I think one of the things, okay, that I kind of go to the note, okay, the other day, okay, yeah, okay. But one of the things is that I think the National Chamber of Commerce has a unique network, okay, of the older diaspora that we can kind of connect all of these people, okay, you know, the small people, itty bitty people, all of them, the other itty bitty people, you know, and they can sustain each other and go together that way. It's one way we can do that. We change it. We just agree.
Yeah, and let me give you another example. You talk about India. How many times has somebody said they went to 7-Eleven or they had a store in the hood or something, and these Indians or these Pakistanis or these people from somewhere else were in there running? It's kind of like Chinese. You know, the Chinese have a reputation in a lot of countries that they'll be the shop owners, they'll run the stores, but they don't love you as a customer. And they, you know, suspicious or treat you a certain way. Well, part of that is they don't know it's like that. You know what I mean? And we're dealing with the bottom end of the economic ladder. But when you go up and tell like the people that are backing them or financing them or stocking them and making it possible for that retailer to be in business that is backing his homeland, the godfather, the mothership, back to the source of where all their energy and power is coming from. And they say, no, wait a minute. We got to respect that culture. We got to respect those people. Or maybe you don't really need to be trying to export people as much as just get your goods going and make the money, but put a black person in that position. See, if we can work together or cooperate, we get resources, because at the same time, the American bank ain't trying to hear you. They're not trying to put you in position to open that store. To open a 7-Eleven or even a little gas station, a convenience store, you need close to $500,000 worth of inventory. Think about it. All those little things of toothpaste or the little tchotchke things you see by the cash register or whatever. Each one of them things, man, it costs. You got to pay to have it in your store, and you're not a real store if you don't have inventory. If you don't have products to sell. So we're talking about a lot of different things here, but that's really what it comes down to. But more importantly, we don't have the answers as much as we've certainly got the problems or the challenges. And if you can solve a problem, boy, you can have a business.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Or you can, like you said, come with an idea, okay, that can be transferred internationally. We'll be, it'll be.
So let me tell you where I was going with the agriculture piece on the fruit and vegetables thing.
5 minutes, gentlemen.
So we've been asked, and it's been coming up, and so we're going to do it. We've been asked to come up with a youth entrepreneurial development program. Okay. So how do you teach a kid or something to have a business, have a job, instead of not having anything for them to do, and we're up here getting shot for ringing the wrong doorbell or going here or there, and not to say it would change anything, but you got alternatives to where maybe we could be doing something productive and not be worrying about the crazy people with guns that you can't even stray across or close to the line. All these people that were shot in the last week or something, they were all like innocent of doing anything. And so if we can connect those kids, like let's say with fruit and vegetables, and they live in a neighborhood and we're organizing, we're teaching them like the same way back in my day when I was growing up, one of the first jobs you could get as a kid was a paper route. And you learn some of the principles of business from your paper route. And service, you had to deliver it, and then you had to collect. You had to go back and get paid for your newspapers that you've been delivering all week. So you understood a little bit. You learned a little bit. Like, I think I was in maybe 5th or 6th grade.
The value.
Yeah. So I know we're not covered on time, but so if we could.
Let me say to you, what you just said, okay? When we stand here in Ferguson, Missouri, sometimes I talk to the mayor about being out here. We trying to kind of address things of that nature, okay, by young entrepreneurs. How we can kind of start at that level, okay, and acclimate them to understand the basics and stuff, so they can go into it, learn how to do business people early on in their lives. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, so we're gonna set it up so the kids, and it really there will be incidental at their age, but they'll be able to have, whether it be a food truck, a food cart, or a central delivery point within a neighborhood where now there's nothing. There's a food desert. So we'll be able, and these are going to be some of the biggest and best quality, healthy type products because they're small farmers. And the big industrial buyers, the Whole Foods and all them, they're going for industrial farms. So anyway, these are just some of the little ideas. One person comes and says, hey, what can we do for these kids? Another person says, hey, I got these tomatoes. What am I going to do with them? How I can't get to market them? Like I said, well, you ain't got to have a ton of bushels, metric ton to ship. If we could just farmer number 1, 2, 3, 4 through 10 or 100, put what you got. We'll market, but we'll sell them like it's a bulk thing. But then we'll also sell them as individuals.
Because we got enough food deserts here in the St. Louis area, okay, that we had some farmers, okay, we can make something to get in. That's one thing we had tried to do a while back. Remember that Rebs a couple of years ago? We were trying to work together toward that, with the North Vaccine Commerce. But anyway, that's something, you know, we had started already, but we were going happy to kind of be a part of that as usual.
Absolutely.
But I just want to thank you, Chuck, first of all, okay, for you know, taking the time to get our chamber abreast of what's going on. You know, and also, you know, being able, you know, like right now, you know, as you know, you're being heard live around the world on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and Spotify, and you get a podcast, and that's good for us, okay, for the chamber as a whole, and for the NASDAQ Democrats, that we get consistently, you know, speaking the same message every week by you.
Well, it is my pleasure, and you know, we are in service to mankind. But we're going to step our game up a bit more, and we're going to challenge the community to bring your ideas, bring your needs, bring your problems, and let's see what we can solve together.
Well, that's always what we try to do, Chuck, is, you know, come with the ideas and put, you know, things to work and work out the community. That's how small business is started. And on that note, my name is Adam. That's Mr. Chuck, give us your last word, send us home.
Well, stay tuned. We got a whole lot coming. You know, we got our August event in Atlanta, and we certainly want you and your members and anybody else who wants to come on and meet some people and make some business.
And network together.
Yes, sir.
My name is Alphonse. That's Chuck Evolve. That's Reb. That's Scott. And we all thank you for being part of lunch with the Real King Congress in this area. The show we're going to get tomorrow at 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Live again from 1 to 3 tomorrow on Sunday and at 3 o'clock on Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Alphonse. Life is good and keep you safe.